Thank you, Bo. In this week's Caring for Our Kids, we know antibiotics save lives, but many are not needed, and overusing them can be dangerous. The Centers for Disease Control calls antibiotic resistance one of the most urgent threats to our health. So joining us now with more from Children's Hospital is Dr. Katie Stordahl. It's always good to see you.
Thank you.
You know, we keep reminding people that you can't overuse antibiotics. It's so dangerous. But before we get into more of that reminder, let's talk about how antibiotics work, and do they work?
Well, they work against the bacteria that they're intended to work against. And so some antibiotics work by halting the bacteria from growing, and then your immune system can take over and kill those bacteria. And some antibiotics work by killing the bacteria directly. So if an antibiotic is being used appropriately for a bacteria, such as strep throat, that it's intended to treat, then it does work. But it doesn't work for viruses, which is the key.
And you know, we have talked about this before, the illnesses that cannot be treated with antibiotics. A lot of people aren't aware of that, and parents come in wanting to take something with them, wanting a prescription to take with them for their children, with good intentions.
With very good intentions, and I understand that. So 90% of the time when a child has a sore throat, it's not strep throat, it's a virus. And so that can be difficult for parents to understand. The strep test was negative, this is a virus, but I need an antibiotic to help my child. But they don't. Because that antibiotic will not help that virus. The same thing goes for colds, or we call them upper respiratory infections. Those are viruses. Now, you can develop a secondary infection, such as an ear infection or a sinus infection. Those may need to be treated with antibiotics, but the actual cold itself cannot be treated with an antibiotic.
It won't respond, and in fact, sometimes overprescribing can be dangerous, so let's talk about that aspect.
It can be. There are already certain bacteria that exist in hospitals and sometimes outside of hospitals in the world today that have developed resistance to certain types of antibiotics. And unfortunately, that has begun to spread because of antibiotic overuse. The concern that the CDC has, that you mentioned, and that physicians have, is what if we increase that and we develop more and more bacteria that don't respond to the antibiotics that we currently have to treat it. So we want to make sure, it's very scary, we want to make sure that we are only treating bacteria that we know that we're using the right antibiotic for.
All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Listen to your doctor about that, guys. Bo?
No doubt. All right. Thank you so much, Lori.